You know, when you have personal experience in things, you understand how things work. It's when you hear somebody talk about a situation and they say things that you have difficulty understanding, you begin to question things. You know, I've been involved in both ends of property sales and purchase. So I understand the people that are involved in the procedure for the transfer of the title, the deed, from one party to another party, both as a seller and as a buyer. Yeah, how you doing, Jabba? Good morning, buddy. I saw your video. Somebody brought it to my attention. So I went and I watched it. It's only about 10 minutes, so I figured I can tolerate about 10 minutes of you. And according to you, it's not a foreclosure, it's a closure. I'm gonna check, I'm on my laptop now, so it frees up my phone. Now, according to, I'm only going by this, still here. And it's a foreclosure auction. It's already scheduled. They have their date. They're not saying the exact date, but it's scheduled by the lender, the bank. Not a home sale by you. Unless this is wrong. Unless this is wrong. If it's wrong, and they're accusing you of having your home in a foreclosure auction, you should probably get a lawyer and sue them, since you already have a lawyer. And I'm wondering why you have a lawyer. My wife and I got divorced and sold our home. We didn't have a lawyer. We didn't need one. In both the purchases and sales of property, there was only one lawyer involved. And that one lawyer is from the bank that will be providing the mortgage to whichever party it is, the one that's purchasing the home. That's the one that is installed by the bank that will be lending the money. And do a title search. Make sure it's clean, no liens, like I said. This is a normal procedure. It's done. In every case, it's done. It's demanded by the bank that's lending the money. You know? Do a property inspection, everything from surrounding property. Make sure there's, even at times, depending on your area, if there's been any sort of industry there at one time that had chemical spills, there could be contaminants in the soil, or it has a well, they want to make sure the well water is not contaminated, it's safe to drink. The property structure itself, the structure of the roof, no leaks, no damage. Basements where you don't have a basement on the house, it's a concrete slab. Even termite infestation. These things are thoroughly checked out by a lawyer. Doesn't do it himself. He appoints a home inspection. He has someone on his team go and do a title deed search on the property. And then when everything comes back clean to the bank and they say, okay, you know, we feel good about lending this money to the buyer, you know, then they set up a closing date. That bank appointed lawyer shows up with real estate agent, with the buyer and the seller. The buyer and the seller does not have their own lawyers there. It's not necessary. It's not needed. It's not done. There's only one attorney involved in this. That one attorney is the bank-appointed attorney. Transaction takes place. Signatures go down. The property sold. So I don't understand why you need a whole team of lawyers there. You have a lawyer, your real estate. You know, when we sold our house, we went with Pelletier Realty only because it was a family-owned realty that had been around for a long time. And I happen to know David Pelletier, the son, personally. You know, he was a pretty cool guy. And when it was time, we were going through our divorce time to sell, I said, oh, I'll call Pelletier. At that time, Century 21 was around. They were like kind of new in the area. I said, I'll go with Pelletier. So I called David. Yeah, Brian, I'll take care of it. They handled it. Dave didn't show up with their realty lawyer. It wasn't necessary. Me and my ex didn't show up with a realty lawyer. It wasn't necessary. The only lawyer that showed up was the lawyer from the bank, from the person that was buying our home. So I don't understand why you're going to need 3 lawyers at this closure, as you called it. It's called a closing, not a closure. A closure is usually a word that's used with people that have some personal situations in their life. They're having a hard time getting over it. They need to put closure to it and move on with their life. Different words, different terminology for different situations, but whatever. Your closure. That a whole team of lawyers needs to be there. Okay, Jabba, whatever you say. Whatever you say. I've said this before. Whatever you say. It's okay, whatever you say. Days go by, time goes by, and then we see what happens. Whatever you say. A couple of homes I purchased. It was the same thing. We went and applied for a mortgage. At that time, one was with First Citizens Federal Credit Union, and one was with Bay Bank of Boston. Later on, they got bought out by Bank of America. Went to Bay Bank of Boston. Applied for a mortgage, told them what the property was. They said, okay. Their lawyer went and checked out the property. Had someone check out the property. Someone on their team, their law firm, looked into the title deed search, find out title deed was clean. When everything came back good, that got relayed to the bank. They contacted us and said, okay, everything checks out with the house. You and your wife's credit's great. You don't have any problem, So we will get in contact with the realtor and we will set up a closing date. Okay. We showed up at the closing date to purchase the homes. There was one lawyer there. Their real estate agent that was selling the house, they didn't have a lawyer there. The person that was selling the house, they didn't have their own personal lawyer there. The only lawyer there was from the lender, the bank that was giving us the mortgage. That was the only lawyer that was there because that's all that's necessary. Everything went down. Us, real estate agent, the lawyer, and the seller. One home we bought, the seller, they had a proxy. That was our home in Pine Hill Acres. Because the seller, we got that house for a steal. It was a quick sale. The guy was a widower and he had a stroke. And he had to be put in, some care in a nursing home. And he had no family here. He had met his wife in Indiana. She was there. It's a long story. She was on vacation, whatever. She met her. She was here with her family. When they hooked up and got married, he came here. But all he had was a niece and a few relatives in Indiana. Nobody here. So his niece came, took him to a nursing home in Indiana, and the house was vacant. She had it cleaned out, and she put up the house for sale. She didn't want to be bothered with it, having to deal with it and making sure it wasn't vandalized and whatnot. It's a nice neighborhood. Pine Hill Acres was a pretty nice area to live in the far north end of New Bedford here. So they put it up for a quick sale. And it's one of those situations where you're in the right place at the right time. And 3 other people already had put in for it before we came along. However, they couldn't get their mortgages due to their credit scores. That's how we got it. Otherwise, it would have been sold to someone else. And we got it for a steal. And at that time, the market was kind of low. The market shot up many years later. House was paid for, when we sold it. And we made over $200,000. We split. My ex was happy, I was happy, and we both went our separate ways, But in both cases, in sales and in purchases, it's highly unusual to have a whole team of lawyers. Everybody showing up with a lawyer. No, it really doesn't work that way. But if you say so, Jabba, whatever you say, whatever you say. Even though it's still up as a bank foreclosure auction, you say different, whatever you say, whatever you say. You know, whatever you say. Yeah, you said, well, you know, you always got to look into it. You got to talk to the bank to find out what's owed. And, well, that is true. In a bank foreclosure auction, it will be looked into at how much is owed on the mortgage. So that way they know whatever the auction price sale goes for. Now they know if there's enough to even cover the bank what's owed on the mortgage. There are cases where there's an overflow, and now the bank does tack on fees. Throughout all the foreclosure procedure that's been going on for quite some time, since the beginning of the year back in January when they first put in for the foreclosure. Even that solicitor gives the exact date when the foreclosure started. That's also on Zillow, unless you say different. This is information that's related right from the bank, that's right on the public record. Yeah, I'll show you. It's right on the public record. Unless you say different. I know it's here. Yeah, January. Yeah. Foreclosure, judicial, everything is right here. The record of when it was filed, all legal. But if you say different, whatever you say, Jabba, whatever you say. Now, if there's a shortfall, you know, I picked up a few tidbits of information from my ex-wife's nephew, Danny. He's been in real estate for a long time. He's handled sales for banks, foreclosure, sales. That didn't go well for the bank, so they turned it over to a real estate agent, hoping they can maybe squeeze a little bit more out of it. Because with a foreclosure auction, people know it's a foreclosure. They know the bank wants to get money quick. They tend to lowball. They tend to, you know, you get a few people there and each one's trying to undercut the other to get it for as little as possible, you know. You know, some cases they get lucky, they break even. But usually, if you break even, it's about as good as it gets, as they say, you know. And then there's shortfalls, where even with a real estate agent, now they're going to take a cut, they take their percentage. And there's a shortfall now. What it's sold for, now the bank said, okay, listen, we just got to unload this, man. It's been way too long here. We got to unload this now. So it'll take whatever they can get. And if there's a shortfall, depending on the state you live in, state laws can differ from state to state. In some places, the owner that got foreclosed on, they can be on the hook for anything that's left over that wasn't covered in the auction or even the sale of the house, you know. And they'll go after them. They'll attach your paycheck, you know, take money from you, but you don't work. You don't have any income. You're not getting a disability. You're not working. You're still living off your welfare check you get, you know, from the state. And in some cases, you know, there's a saying, you know, you can't get blood from a stone. But some people, they know that there's no way we're going to get a dime from this person, so they just walk away from it. But that goes on your credit report, that there's money owed that you're responsible for and it hasn't been repaid. You know what I mean? And this foreclosure bit itself is on a credit score record. Whether it's sold at auction, whether it's sold by a realtor, just the fact that that's on your credit report, that's there. That's going to stay there for 7 years. You know? I think you had mentioned previously, oh, once you sell your house, you're going to pay off all your creditors and it's going to boost your credit score. Your credit score is already destroyed. It's already destroyed. And that's a fact, Jack. Don't you talk back no more, no more, no more, no more. Have a great day, everyone. Have fun and stay safe.